The cost to insure your gear in Escape from Tarkov this wipe has been absolutely insane. And so in this video, I want to talk about if it's even worth it to insure your gear and the fact that in every category of gear you might want to insure, there are items that are much less expensive to insure than others, and that can add up to a ton of money saved throughout the wipe. I'm Jessekazam, welcome back to another Escape from Tarkov video. Before we dive into the video, I want to take a second to talk about Juju. We just got some new stock of the Kazam Black Shaker Cup. This thing is awesome. A huge shout out to Juju for sponsoring the video. Juju is an energy formula designed specifically for gamers to reduce reaction time, increase focus and energy, and doing all that without providing any sort of hard crashes at the end. I've loved working with these guys. Their flavors are amazing. The Kazam Shaker Cup turned out awesome. So if you want to learn more about Juju or pick up a tub or a shaker, you can use code Jessekazam at checkout using the link below. With all that out of the way though, let's go ahead and dive into the video. So if you've been playing Tarkov for a while, then you can definitely tell that this wipe, the insurance prices have gone kind of crazy. And at first we thought it was a bug with the scaling of leveling with proper, but it looks like with how long it's been in the game and with a few things we've heard from Nikita, that it seems like it's intentional, maybe just as a money sink, but it seems like it's here to stay. And a huge reason that I wanted to make this video is because I started to notice that within each category of thing you might want to insure, that there are vastly different prices for items. And sometimes those items provide the same amount of like value. It may be the same armor value or similar types of guns, but they can be dramatically different prices to insure. So knowing this information, you can potentially go in with very similar gear to what you're used to, but be saving yourself a ton of money on insurance. So we'll dive into the prices of everything first, and then towards the end, we'll get to like my thoughts on if insurance is worth it and when it's worth it. What we're doing in this video is basically breaking down the three most expensive and most insured items, which is going to be guns, armor, and helmets. Of course, a lot of people insure everything, or they insure their backpacks or their contacts or something. The prices of those don't vary nearly as wildly, and those things oftentimes come back a lot more frequently because you can't stack bags, and people don't like, they might swap out their own contacts, but they don't like taking 5 or 6 different contacts out of the raid. So we're sticking with those three, and we will start with armor. We're going to start kind of at the top and work our way down. At the class 6 category, like we said, in each level of armor, there's like expensive and cheap things to insure. And the kind of notorious #1 killer here is going to be the slick armor. As you can see, the slick is 97,000 rubles to insure. It is important to note that while I was doing this testing and figuring out this information, the durability of the armor actually does not change the price to insure. So if you get a slick back that's zeroed out and you repair it and you keep doing that and you get an armor to a pretty low durability state, you're paying the same to insure it. So that might even be added value to armors that repair really, really well, as opposed to stuff that loses a lot of its durability. But just under 100,000 rubles to insure a slick, which is obviously a class 6 armor. If we swap over to the hex grid, the hex grid is 54,600 rubles to insure. So almost half the price to insure. Of course, the slick has a higher durability, but a lot of people say that they're almost completely comparable when it comes to the fact of what the hex is made out of and what the slick is made out of. Obviously, this is a deep, dark rabbit hole where I'm not here to say that you should run this specific gear versus another piece of gear, because prices on the flea market fluctuate, especially when we get into armor materials, repairability. There's a lot that goes into this, and I don't want to go too deep in this video. We're just talking about insurance here. So for the class 6 category, a hex grid is going to be almost half the price to insure compared to a slick. And the new Tagilla armor, which is the Cry Precision AVS MBAV Tagilla edition. This is a class 6 armor that is also a rig. The rig is pretty small, but this is 55,900 rubles to insure. Now you're insuring your rig and your armor, or you're not having to purchase a rig. And it's class 6 as well, not quite as repairable as the other two, but this thing has actually been really nice. And a lot of times you can find the Tagilla armor on the flea market cheaper than the slick and the hex. The hex is also a little bit cheaper than the slick as well. So once again, it might just be kind of better value all the way around to get something like a hex or a Tagilla armor, especially if you plan to insure it. Now, moving down to the class 5 armor category, we're talking about obviously some of the most popular ones. I can't go through every single armor. I don't want this video to be super long. This is more just giving you the tools to figure out what kind of armor you like, maybe explore some other things, and then figure out what's best to insure. But if we go with some of the most popular ones in the class 5 category, it's probably got to be the Killa armor, the 6B13M. That is 65,000 rubles to insure. And my personal favorite is the AACPC Mod 2, and this comes in once again at about half at 36,000 rubles to insure. Now, the AACPC is also a rig, which is nice. It also repairs really, really well, just like the Killa Armor does. And I believe it also has a max durability of 60, which is what the Killa Armor has as well. And like we talked about in my armor barter video, there's really good barters at Ragman if you've got Ragman all the way leveled up for the AACPC, which allows you to get these fairly regularly for fairly cheap. And they insure for about half the price as a Killa Armor does. So that is a huge win-win. Some of the other class 5 armor, something like a Gen 4 high mobility, that's about 30,000 rubles to insure. So once again, you're under half of what a Killa Armor is. However, you've got the weight penalty and the repairability is obviously not that good. But if you find some of these on Raiders or in a ground stash or something like that, it might be worth running because they don't sell for a whole lot on the flea market and they insure fairly well. The Fort Redut green body armor is about 26,000 rubles to insure, even cheaper. I think this is about the same weight as a Gen 4, but potentially a little bit better repairability, but definitely still not great. Once again, however, it is very cheap to insure. The Defender armor here comes in at 75,000 rubles to insure, so even more expensive than a Killa Armor. And they're probably a lot harder to find. They're pretty expensive on the flea market, and they're not too common to be found. So that was actually surprising to me. Not necessarily something that you'd want to go out and purchase because it's expensive and you've got the high insurance price. And then on the lower end of the class 5, you got something like a Korund, which is 21,000 rubles to insure. I know the Korund gets a lot of hate because it's low durability and it feels like it breaks easy. However, it repairs really, really well. And you could potentially buy one of these for cheap for like 100,000 rubles from Proper, insure it for only 20,000 rubles, get it back. It repairs all the way up to like 44.5 durability. And you've basically got a fresh Korund and it's only going to cost you 20,000 rubles again to insure. So think what you want about the Korund, but it is definitely a cheap armor to insure. Now moving down to the class 4 category. Once again, some of the most popular ones is something like a TV110 rig. This is a rig. It's also class 4 armor. There's also really good barters for this where you can craft those items like we talked about in the armor barter video. 23,000 rubles. This is a really good deal for a really good class 4 armor. One of the best in my opinion. Something like a trooper armor is only 23,000 to insure as well. A lot of times these can be rolled into slicks. These are really common to find kind of in the early mid game. They're in Raiders, ground stashes. You can buy them off the flea market. And if you're at a high level, you can convert them to slicks. If not, they're actually really great armors to run. Some of the lower tier class 4 armors that are really popular as well, the 6B3TM, only 11,700 rubles to insure. This is still probably one of the best budget armors. Class 4, also a rig, really cheap to insure. And then you've also got the 6B515, which is kind of the floral version of the 6B3TM. Similar price, 15,000 rubles to insure. Class 4 armor as well. That's also a rig. So that's going to be it for armor. At this point in the wipe, I'm just going to stick to the class 4, 5, and 6 armors. And as you can tell, in each category, there are definitely huge discrepancies in the price. Obviously, the higher you go, the more expensive it is. But there's definitely some stuff to be aware of here and how much certain things cost. We can kind of briefly go over helmets as well, because it's very similar as far as the price for the helmets. Starting all the way at the top again, you've got something like an Alton is going to be 53,000 rubles to insure. The new Tagilla helmet is going to be 35,000 rubles to insure. Obviously, it's not going to be as much as some of the armors, but in certain cases, like that Alton, 52,000 rubles, that's almost as much as it costs to insure a hex grid. So you might want to pair a hex or a Tagilla armor with something like this so that you're not going crazy. If you were wearing a slick and an Alton, that's just already in an insane spot with insurance. Some of the top tier class 4 helmets, which are the most popular ones, you've got something like the Exfil helmet that's got the face shield, the ear covers, the helmet. That's about 50,000 rubles to insure as well, almost as much as an Alton to insure. And then got something like maybe like an airframe with the face shield and the ears. That's 48,000 rubles to insure. Really, really expensive. It's obviously taking into account each individual thing you put on. So if you want something that's got ear covers and a face shield, it's going to be really expensive. The Fast MT with the kind of Mando mask here and the ears built in, that's about 60,000 rubles to insure. It gets pretty crazy. Going towards more of the just like stock standard helmets, something like a Bastion, really popular class 4, 26,000 rubles to insure. The Bastion with the slap plate on it is right back up to that 55,000 rubles. Man, this really shows me, I don't know if that slap plate is worth it. You're spending as much as it would cost to insure an Alton on this thing, and there's no face shield. Something like a ULAC, which is probably the most common, 18,000 rubles. So less to insure than something like a Bastion, and it also covers your ears. You've got the kind of like ULAC without the ear cover, the Highcom Striker. These are 14,000 rubles to insure. And then the TC 2001, another class 4 helmet, doesn't cover the ears, 12,000 rubles to insure. So you can see huge discrepancy there. Something like a ULAC is a great helmet. Obviously no face shield, but you know, 18,000 rubles to insure compared to an exfil or an airframe with a face shield, you're way up in that 50,000 ruble territory. It's the price of covering more, but it definitely is pretty expensive. Then moving down to the class 3 helmets, more of the budget helmets, you know, you've got the kind of like SSH helmet that you can buy at level 1 Ragman. It's really their class 3 high ricochet chance, 4,000 rubles to insure, and a 6B47 as well, 8,000 rubles to insure. Very similar. The 6B just covers your ears, but we really see that scaling once again, 4,000 to 8,000 rubles here, you know, 18,000 rubles for a ULAC, ripping up to 50 or 60,000 rubles for those full helmet sets. And finally, before we move on to the final thoughts and what I think about if insurance is worth it, we got to talk about guns. Now, guns is a really interesting thing because it's getting its value, it's getting the price of that insurance based on all the different attachments you're putting on it and the value of those attachments as well. And that means that, you know, you can't just talk about the insurance price for an M4. There's a million different ways to build an M4, and each one of those attachments is assigned a value, and there's like second, third, and fourth best attachments, and it gets really insane. So I just have a bunch of screenshots we can pull up. Something like a short barrel meta mutant is going to be 56,000 rubles to insure. An MCX that's meted out is about 50,000 rubles to insure. A really kind of close to top tier M4 with the top tier suppressor, long barrel, 60 round mag, 81,000 rubles. There's a few other M4s here, and you can see it all depends on what's on there. Something in the 40 to 50,000 ruble range, all the way up to that 80, 85,000 ruble range. And then you can really see the difference here on something like an MDR, which has very minimal attachments on it, 48,000 rubles compared to a lot of those M4s that were in the 80,000 ruble category. 308 MDR is another super popular gun. You can see 57,000 rubles, and something as simple as just throwing a Voodoo on it as opposed to having a Delta Point, up to 64,000 rubles. So that Voodoo alone compared to the Delta Point added 7,000 or 8,000 rubles to the price of the insurance. HK is very obviously expensive, 70,000 rubles. MP7s come in really cheap, especially compared to something like M4s at like 35 to 38,000 rubles, depending on how many attachments you put on it. A super decked out AS Val, about 50,000 rubles. RPK, fully decked out long barrel, 38,000 rubles. And then to really kind of show the point of how the attachments really make all the difference, we can take a look at something like the Mark 18, which is considered one of the most powerful guns in the game. And you can see 69,000 rubles is a lot to insure, but this somehow comes underneath something like a lot of those M4s because there's a lot less you can do to this. There isn't, you know, longer barrels or suppressors or something, different uppers and lowers compared to that of the M4, where every single thing has like a meta version of it. And because you're assembling all that together, the insurance can actually come out way more. Now, my thoughts on guns are obviously stuff that requires the less amount of attachments are going to be really good for insurance. MDRs are great because there's less you can do to them, and RPK has less interchangeable parts than maybe some of the other AKs. SMGs like MP7s, especially the black MP7, the A1, there's not a lot you can do to it. You can put an optic, you can put the suppressor if you want, and a flashlight, and that's it. And because of that, those things are going to be much less expensive to insure. And this, once again, I don't have time to do every single gun, but this is going to stretch across anything that doesn't require a lot to get to a really good spot, which are going to be your budget AKs, a lot of your SMGs, and stuff like your MDRs. If you want to get into that zone where a mutant or an M4 or an HK or anything big that requires a lot of attachments to get to where you want it, you are going to be paying that premium. And now you can see how everything adds up. Your 80 or 90,000 rubles for your gun, your 90,000 rubles for your slick, your 60,000 rubles for your Alton, and now your million ruble kit just got an additional 200,000 to 300,000 rubles just in insurance prices going on. So at the end of the day, everybody's always asking if insurance is worth running. Of course, that is impossible to tell. Some days you're going to get a ton of stuff back. People are going to kill you and not realize they kill you, or you might die to a nade out in a bush and they can't find your body and you get everything back. And some days you're going to go all night where you're dying and you're getting absolutely nothing back. It is a greedy world out there because of the price of insurance. A lot more people are insurance frauding their own stuff, ditching it in a bush and taking yours just to get that maximum value. I would say that if you're solo, of course, insurance is going to be a much riskier play. You really have to lean into the insurance frauding. If you kill a guy with a helmet, drop your helmet in a bush and grab his and try to get out of that raid so you're getting maximum value out of that raid. If you're playing with other people, you're definitely and obviously going to reap a lot more rewards. People can ditch your stuff for you after you die. If you're playing duo, threes, squads, you're definitely going to have a higher chance of getting your stuff back. Personally, when I'm playing with a duo, which is most of the time, I will almost always insure just about everything. And I would say that it's worth it. The amount of stuff I get back, if I get a slick back and a helmet or maybe a gun or two, the price of those things is going to cover the cost of insurance. But we are definitely closer than we've ever been to that line where it might be worth it, it might not. So obviously it depends on a whole lot of factors that we can't predict accurately. So I can't say definitively it is or isn't worth it. But I hope that this helped. I hope that this showed you kind of in those categories how varied the insurance prices are. And now maybe you just think twice when you go to click insure or when you're building a loadout. I know that this surprised me, the price difference in a lot of these things, and it's definitely going to inform what armor and guns and helmets I'm buying when I factor in the insurance price. Now, whether you love it or hate it, this is where we're at. And so I hope that this helped you get additional value out of the insurance system in Escape from Tarkov. Thank you so much, as always, for taking time to check out the video. If you liked the video, think about dropping a like, commenting down below, or subscribing to the channel for more content like this. I stream Escape from Tarkov on Twitch. All my links will be down below. I'd love to have you stop by and say hey. And if you're looking for people to play Tarkov with, our Discord server is an awesome place to be. That link is down below as well. Thank you again for stopping by, and I will definitely see y'all on the next one.